Okay, fathers, so in this portion of the module, we will be looking at understanding your own communication style, unlocking effective interactions. Before we begin, let's look at the definition of what a communication style is. So, a communication style, in essence, is the way you express yourself. That's the first thing, towards the other person that you're speaking to, and how they interpret what you say. So, it's really, really important that we pay attention to the way that we communicate and come across, because we can save a lot of misunderstandings and also reduce issues that can occur during these types of interactions. Okay, so let's look at the styles of communication. You have, first of all, passive. Passive is where, that you're trying to avoid conflict. And this is where you don't actually express yourself. You don't actually express what needs to be said to make that improvement because you're a bit hesitant. The next one is aggressive. You're hostile. So whenever you speak to a person or a person speaks to you, they're very aggressive, they're very defensive, and they can come across very hard to approach and hard to talk to, and things never ever get sorted out because there's too much hostility there. The next one that we're going to look at is passive aggressive. Now, this is an indirectly someone expressing their anger or frustration. It doesn't come out in a direct way. It's all indirect. It's called digs. And this tends to happen between couples a lot, most of the time, where if they're not direct with each other, they're throwing indirect digs because there's a lot of issues that are unresolved. So it's coming out indirectly, And then we move on to assertive communication. Now, this is where a person has reached a level where they're able to communicate what's on their mind effectively, respectfully, and with balance. So what we need to do is we need to identify what style you are currently using. Now, I would highly recommend to do this exercise, which I'm about to tell you, is to self-reflect how you're coming across. Whether it's whenever you're speaking to your child or your children or your spouse, ask yourself, how do you express your thoughts and feelings? How do you take criticism? And do you often feel misunderstood? Because if you do, then you need to refine the way you come across. And the thing with communication is it's trial and error. You're not going to get it all the time. You're going to get misunderstood. But the most important thing is when you do communicate, look for another way of communicating effectively. If the first instance where you have tried to communicate with that person has not worked, then maybe it could be the tone that you're using, the body language that you're using with that tone. Or it could be the fact that you're speaking too fast or you're speaking too low, or your thoughts are not clear. And because your thoughts are not clear, it's coming across, your communication style is coming across all misunderstood, confused. And communication is heavily, heavily linked to your emotional well-being. You'll tend to find when you see happy people, they're really expressive, they're really in tune with themselves when they communicate. And when they're not so happy, they can't quite get the words out in terms of what it is that they're trying to express. And it comes across negative. It comes across very, very defensive. So communication is also linked to feeling. When you're feeling sad, you're highly likely to be misunderstood. When you're feeling a lot more joyful, more calm, more peaceful, you can articulate your message concisely and precisely. So let's now look at how does your communication style affect, what kind of impact does it have on people? How does your style of communication affect people? Well, look, the more you develop your communication style and the more you're able to articulate yourself a lot more better, your relationship, your trust with people, it increases. You have better quality of relationships. There's minimal misunderstandings. Things get done. Ideas are very well articulated, and they work. because everything is all in sync. And this will take time, this will take practice, this will take so many attempts where you will not get it right the first time, but you have to keep on trying. And every time that you try to communicate, look for a different way. Maybe your timing was wrong. Maybe it could be the fact that you caught someone at a bad time when they're doing something, when they're busy. It's also to do with timing, emotions, and how you come across, what you say, how you say, your tone of voice. So have a look at those kind of things. Reflect back and think, hang on a second, how did I come across? Maybe I could have said this better. Okay, next time that I'll time it a lot more better. Next time that I won't use a harsher tone of voice. Yeah? And communication is all about how you deal with conflict. Because with communication, there is a lot of conflict. And the reason why that we have a lot of conflict is because we don't really reflect in terms of how we come across to the other person and how we're perceived. So I'll give you an example. Whenever I'm talking and I'm trying to communicate something with my partner, I cross-reference. I tell her, did you understand what I'm saying? How did I come across? What did you understand from this situation? So you're always checking for feedback. You're always cross-referencing to make sure that you have articulated your message well and everyone understands where you're coming from. Yeah, so what I would say is my tips for improving your communication style is to listen more attentively, be present, show that you're engaging a lot more, adjust your tone of voice, and be open to feedback. So what does that mean? So when someone's giving you feedback about yourself, don't get defensive about it. Just take it as a pinch of salt.